If you have it, hello and welcome to the final round here in Tier 4 of Delta Motor Racing. Interlagos is the battleground this evening, and it's fully equipped with 2 DRS zones, flowing bends, and 2.7 kilometers with your foot flat to the floor. Sector 1 is home to the iconic Senna S before you enter the tricky middle sector. In that one, the car is always turning, but not always with the camber. Sector 3 has the incredibly difficult final corner before a 1 kilometer drag to the line around that left-hand famous bend. Over the years, the Brazilian Grand Prix has seen some of the most iconic moments in F1 history, particularly over the past decade or so. We saw Hamilton snatch the title from Massa in 2008, and then just 1 year later, Button put together a heroic drive to complete the Brawn GP fairy tale. In our championship, however, it is Furion and McLaren who have already wrapped up the titles, but P2 is still wide open. Any driver down to 16th could yet claim second, and only Red Bull and Haas are out of it in the constructors. My name is Tom Davis, and joining me in the comm box for the first time is the fabulous Popo. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm Popo. Yeah, I'm doing very good, thank you. And by the way,
Yeah.
it's actually not my first time here. I am the OG commentary.
Yeah, you're bringing it back. We're throwing it back a little bit. So,
This is a comeback.
Furion's won the title, and obviously there's a whole bunch of guys in for second place. If you were in that middle of the battle in there, would you be really pushing, or would you hope that the guys ahead make a mistake?
I mean, it's the last race, so I would just go all or nothing, to be honest. But yeah, let's see what they're gonna do.
It's going to be interesting as well. And then also, we already had some races. In particular, I was covering the no assists tier earlier on in the week, and it produced a lot of different strategy options as well. And already, some guys are out there on the softs, mediums, and hard tire compound. So you can do pretty much whatever you want at this circuit. It's going to be curious to see how it plays out. We'll take a look at Furion, though. He's won the championship, won the past 4 races on the bounce, giving him around 100 points. And he's currently on an outlap, giving himself plenty of space to the car ahead of him on the soft tire. And we've seen this time and time again from Furion. He goes out, sets a lap time on the fastest compounded tire, and will then try to lead from the front. Very similar to what we saw Vettel do in his 4 championship years. So he'll come around. This is the tricky final corner, and then you absolutely floor it up the hill. You've got to be careful not to get any wheel spin at the start, and then you come around as tight to the wall and that curb as you possibly can to shorten the distance to the line. You open it up, path of minimum resistance. Now you're thinking about turn 1. Get as far over to the right to open it up as you can and follow it round the hill as it begins to drop away from you. Get on the power, second gear, then 4th through there, and you're already up to 5th as you then curve round the Curva du Sol into the second DRS zone on this lap. Turn 4 is going to be a tricky one because this one's always tighter than it looks, and Furion actually sits the fastest purple sector of anybody so far. This one, turn 5, pretty flat out, nice and easy, and it's all about setting up for this triple right-hander. You come through 6, and then it just keeps on curving into 7. Be careful not to touch the curb, else you could spin out, and then turn 8, you follow it around, and then you're coming way round all the way to the left, 180 degrees to come back up the hill through turn number 9. Let the track come around on you and pull you to the outside to set up for that hairpin at turn number 10. Turn 11 these days, completely flat, absolutely nothing to worry about. Turn 12 was the last real corner, and he's a little bit wide of apex there. That could compromise him a little bit as he then comes up the hill, around, and whilst last time we saw him open up out of this final bend, you'll see him stick as close as he can to the wall, minimize the distance to the line. Will he go pole? Yes, he will. He goes up by about half a second from Bogdan.
Yeah, that was a really competitive lap, and also his first lap here in this qualifying session. So it's going to be really exciting to see what they can do later.
Yeah, Cosman's going to go a little bit quicker, and Cosman is in that fight for P2 in the championship. We've got Danny Lanfear, who is here today, currently not leading it because ITAX, the reserve driver, is leading that battle. But Danny Lanfear is the first of the guys who could take it away. And then you got Cosman in P6, who's just 4 points further back from that. So Cosman's really in that fight, but based on previous form, you would expect Furion to improve on this and go an awful lot quicker. In terms of strategy, Popo, do you think the drivers will be looking to go on the soft and medium compounds, or is there something to be gained by starting on that harder tire?
Yeah, I think it's, to me, it would be unnecessary to start on the hards. They might be doing some warm-up laps, but yeah, I would prefer the soft medium or the medium to soft. That can also be quite competitive. But of course, if there should be an early safety car, then the soft would probably be the best to start on.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'd be thinking as well. And we've seen plenty of safety cars in this tier before. Some of the guys further down the grid making a few errors. What's actually very respectful is Bloth is out there on the harder tire. And we say this every week, but for anyone just joining us, those Toro Rosso guys, they like to try to win the race on strategy. And they've actually put in a couple good results throughout the course of the campaign, picking up a second in Russia, for example. But when it comes to actually overtaking the field, Bloth and Handy, they do tend to struggle just a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they're forced onto the softer compound or not. We've also got a little bit of insider information, and we got a quali session here. It's 18 minutes. You can just about make 4 flying laps if you're really on it. And I know for a fact that Furion is going to be trying that this evening, and doesn't look like anybody else is really out on track. Furion at the moment just heading out for a second one, so he should make it as Ionides. I get his name wrong every single week. Ionides. He comes around. He was coming down the Senna S, and he spun it before he got anywhere near turn 4, which isn't ideal for his lap. But Furion, he's on an outlap, and it'll be interesting to see whether he can better that time from Cosman, because obviously he's got nothing to lose this time. And how do you think that'll affect his strategy coming into this one?
Yeah, I think that he's gonna definitely give it everything. It would be the perfect way to end the championship with a win, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, he's got a very unusual opportunity available to him as well. He didn't race in the first couple rounds in Germany and Austria, but since then he's raced in every single one, and he has won every single one. So if he was to win this one as well, he would have a 100% win record, which is not something that you see very often in the world of motorsport.
Oh, no. Yeah. So yeah,
as far as other guys to look out for in this session, as we mentioned, Danny Lanfear and Cosman are right up there. Davey Lee TV is just 1 point off of Danny, and just a total of 5 points off of ITAX for P2. So keep your eye on both the Renault boys, but in particular Davey Lee. He's right in there as Furion comes down through the Senna S. He looked definitely visibly actually a little bit messier than we saw last time around. He comes across the first sector split, and he is 900ths of a second quicker than he was before. So not quite enough to pip that remarkable time from Cosman at the moment, but he's on the way to doing it. Round the first part of Sector 2, he lifts a lot through there. He struggles a little bit with car stability through some of these long corners. If there was any chink in his armor, that is where you would say it is, but it's certainly not a big one, as he uses even more of the road out of turn number 9 than we saw last time around. Turn 10, he gets it stopped and pivoted really, really nicely at the apex, and floors it down the hill at turn 11. Easy with a light fuel load, and he's about 1.5 tenths up at the moment, but you got to be careful with that downhill turn 11 come the race, because when you got that car all weighted up or potentially on some loose tires, That's a tricky one to keep it turning in. Furion will come across. He looks set to improve. Will it be enough? It does. He pops up into pole once more. And the pressure once again is on Cosmin and Lair. In terms of other guys to look out for in this race, we've seen Bogdan has been gradually and steadily improving over the past few races. He picked up a P2 in Silverstone and a 3rd place in Canada. So Bogdan's definitely up there with guys to keep your eye on. Alongside as well, Charles Leclerc. Now, Charles Leclerc, of course, was involved in that incident at Canada, but has been showing good pace. So the Ferrari driver down in P8 at the moment is someone that could definitely surge through the field come the important part of this evening. The other thing to know is that you've got the 2 Red Bulls. They're circulating out on track together at the moment, potentially hoping to use a little bit of a slipstream. And as we mentioned in the intro, it is a long way round that. It's not technically one straight, but that flat out section in the final sector. But any hope of a toe is going to go kaput as Whiskey gets it all wrong coming out of turn number 11. Spins it round, gets on the curb too much. No toe for Vlad Red, but Vlad Red is going to come across the line to start a flying lap this time around. It might cost him just a little bit not having that. Breaks down into turn number 1. Doesn't use quite as much curb. Turns in a little bit later than we've seen some of the guys use, but is really, really nice and smooth through the second part of that opening complex. Down the back straight, DRS wide open, air flowing over that car as it just gives you so much extra speed and freedom down the straight. He was pretty solid in Sector 1. He's definitely got room to improve on his time as well, about 1.2 seconds off of the leaders. Sector 2 is tidy. It's maybe not exuberantly quick, but it's definitely there or thereabouts, and that's all you need to do in this midfield battle. You just need to make sure that you keep just edging that little bit further forwards, because there will be an incident come the race if past experience is anything to go by. Comes down into this crucial turn 12, braking not as late as possible, but definitely using a really nice line and got on the power really early that time around. It'll be interesting to see how he does round here. I believe Vlad Red uses a pad instead of a wheel, so you can see the steering wheel a little bit twitchy. Across the line from Vlad Red, and it's enough for P5. That was a very respectable lap time. Vlad Red then does a very good job of getting out of the way of the Toro Rosso, just to find out that the Toro Rosso behind him was also on a quick lap and didn't want to follow around. I believe that was Handicap, currently in, well, now last place, having set 6 laps on a set of hard tires. So Andy, you would imagine, just getting in the zone ready to set a quick lap, because you're never going to do it on tires that have already gone round that track 6 times. At the top of the timing screens, though, Furion is out once again. He's just coming round to give himself a lot of space to the car in front. It's currently Bogdan that's out on track ahead of him, and he's done a very good job of giving himself a gap. But notably, that Red Bull car behind him may well get a little bit of a slipstream if it wants it. I believe that's Vlad Red on the cooldown. So Furion shouldn't be too worried about that, because even if Vlad Red decides to go for it, that distance won't matter compared to the tire degradation. Out of the final corner and into the first one, 208 miles an hour before they come breaking down. It's much tidier this time around from the McLaren man himself. He picks up a nice double apex out of turn number 3 and then flows onto the back straight. And fortunately for him, I believe that's the Mercedes of Cosmin has come out just ahead. So that'll actually give him potentially a half a mile an hour extra, or potentially even 1 down that back straight, which would be crucial. Now the Mercedes gets out of the way as Furion brakes at the correct meter board into turn 6, now turn 7 and turn 8 already. That's how quickly this middle sector can come at you before you've even noticed it. Turn 9 is so tricky, but he's dealt with it well. No hint of understeer there as he comes into turn 10. Now then, you get to in the middle of the track, then curve it round. You got to be brave. You know you can do it flat, but sometimes you just drift a little bit wide and you lose so much time if you lift there. Furion at the moment, not set to improve, I don't believe, so you'll need a very, very good exit and slingshot out of turn number 12. He comes round the final corner. He's going to complete the lap, so he might be confident in his ability. Will it be an improvement? And it is. He finds about half a tenth on that one, and it just puts it even further out of reach for the guys behind. He's now topping the session by 2 tenths, which is not a small margin, is it?
Oh no, it's not a small margin at all. But also I think on this track the race itself is like kind of another discipline, because you just have to do that sector 2 repeatedly, like consistently. Which can be really hard to do.
Yeah, we saw that actually with the no assists tier on Monday evening, which you can all check out on twitch.tv/Delta Motor Racing. It was a classic race along those lines, whereby Gary got to the front, and we won't spoil the results since it was such a good championship showdown, but in closing Gary down, Luke, on the fresher tires, was pushing as hard as he could, and he kept making mistakes every now and again in that middle sector. So it comes from even the best drivers in our setup to those little mistakes. In terms of the race itself, obviously you've also got to start thinking about overtaking opportunities and strategy. And obviously turn 1, after that huge 1.3 kilometer flat out section between turn 12 and the first corner, is going to be an overtaking opportunity. In terms of the rest of the lap, obviously there's the second DRS zone down to turn 4 at the beginning of the second sector. And then in the middle sector, it's actually more possible than you would feel from just looking at a track map. The track, surprisingly wide, there's a lot of camber either with or against the corner. Either way, that can certainly help you in terms of taking a different line. Now, you will struggle to get it done if you aren't using a softer tire compound or have much fresher tires than your rival, but it is doable. And then, of course, the do or die point, turn 12 at the end of the lap, you'd almost rather slipstream out of it to try to get somebody at the end, but it's not impossible that you can do them on the brakes on the final corner of the final lap. Now, Popo, I've got to ask you.
Yep.
This track is it's a famous one. It's played host to a few good races, to say the least. Which has been your favorite?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not that old, so I haven't been like around watching F1, but I mean, just the easiest one to mention, maybe 2008 and also 91, where Senna he won at his home track here.
Legendary. Yeah, of course, and that was the year where he got all the cramp in his arms as well, wasn't it? His car got stuck in, I think it was 5th gear.
Yeah.
And he struggled to even hold up the trophy at the end of the race. That's how tired out the great man was.
Yeah. Just amazing performance by him.
Yeah, for me, in recent times, the Brawn fairy tale, I mentioned it in the intro, and it's because it is, in my mind, one of the truly great drives. Button starting from way back on the grid, and he came through to take the title.
Yeah.
In what was, put simply, a completely unlikely, impossible event from the beginning of the season. And then he came through and won the title. It's remarkable what he managed. Other races, 2008, like you mentioned, is that Glock. Like, one of the most famous quotes in recent motorsport.
Yeah.
And then you look at the 2010 and the 2012 seasons, all of that era of Formula One produced some great races whilst Brazil was at the tail end of the season. Recently, of course, Hamilton has made a habit of winning the title long before we ever make it to this part of South America. But that doesn't mean there hasn't been some good races. We've seen wet conditions get involved. Max Verstappen has made 2 or 3 fantastic saves around here. It makes you kind of ask the question, at what point is he still making the same mistakes to have those saves be necessary? Of note, Furion was coming around for his final lap. We've only got 30 seconds left in the session, and he invalidated it through the beginning of Sector 2, I believe. So he won't get round to sec a second time, which does give a few of the other guys some opportunities. Charles has popped up the time screens, Firo Milan has popped up the time screens, and Cosman is coming around to begin a flying lap right at the death of the session. He comes down through Sector 1, and we'll see if we can ride on board with the guy driving that silver arrow. His teammate, has just about pipped him at the moment. Got a nice lap in just before the end of the session and popped up into P2. He's now starting from the backside of that second row of the grid, and you'll want to improve if he wants to maintain that challenge for P2. Vlad Red is on a keyboard, which is remarkable. Keyboard is, I would say, the hardest controller method to use. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens now in the race. Brazil, it's not a narrow track.
Sorry, but do you think the stream will start if I stop streaming and then start streaming again? Because I cannot see it at the moment. Oh no. Wait, is it live now?
I believe the stream is live, yeah.
Thank God. Okay. Yep. I'm sorry, guys.
Keep an eye on it. No need to worry. We, of course, Popo, brand new to Tier 4. It's inevitable that there's going to be some degree of technical difficulties, but we are trying our utmost to bring you the conclusion to what has been a fantastic season so far. This season, of course, started part of the way through the overall Delta Motor Racing Season 2, and it's really, really impressed. I joined the season commentating in Austria after what was a great race in Germany. Austria threw together some of the best battles I have ever seen, so be sure to check that one out if you haven't. We then headed off to Russia for the Sochi race, and that was another good one. We had various errors, various mistakes. It was a great qualifying session there. Then we headed to the USA, which always produces good racing. There was yet more fine battles there. Canada saw a large incident, I think is how we'll describe it. And then last time out in Great Britain, we witnessed Furion claiming the title. It's currently Furion who leads the way on the formation lap. And this is a tricky one for the drivers. They have a choice as to how fast or slow they want to do it. They can't drop too far back off the car in front, though, obviously. And you need to get energy, get heat into those tires and brakes to make sure that they function and you can grip and stop the car come turn 1. The problem from that is your only source of energy in these cars is, of course, the engine. You want the engine to stay cold. So you need to get the energy from the engine and put as much of it into other parts of the car as possible. And it does produce somewhat of a paradoxical problem for the drivers on this formation lap. But it's a short one. You can really get it into the tires. And in particular for Furion, if he can get some good temperature in those tires at the beginning of the grid, he'll then sit on the grid for a long time, which isn't great. It will keep those tires, obviously, if he's put some good temperature in them, but his tires and brakes are cooling the whole time he waits for these other cars. And all the time whilst he's doing that, the cars are only cooled by the air that flows through them. So whilst Furion's standing still, his engine temps will be rocketing. About half the grid is forming up. We got a front row of McLaren and Haas. The second row is Cosman and Milan, the two Mercedes boys, whilst Charles Leclerc and Vlad Red round out the third. Danny Lanfear, Bogdan, Davey Lee TV, and Ionides are your top 10. And the drivers, get ready now. We'll have the lights come on at any moment. 6 races down. 1 to go. Furion's your champion, but who's going to take P2? Who's going to get the best start from the line? The lights go out, and we are racing in Brazil. It's a good start from the front row for the Haas of Lear in P2. You'll have the inside into turn 1, so Furion's forced to go around the outside. A little bit of an incident further down the field, I believe, but they're all just about filing through. They managed to avoid each other despite using the runoff, and we will, in fact, have a safety car as a result of some of that. Already, we made 2 corners of racing, and we've got the pace car on the track.
Oh, there's a contact on the straight, under the safety car. Oh no.
Yeah, that was DJ Mario, one of the fan favorites here. He got involved there. That wasn't ideal. And I struggled to see the turn 1 incident that caused this safety car period. There was a little bit of contact, a little bit of argy-bargy back in the field, but nothing severe. So we'll wait and see whether this is in fact a safety car or if this is going to cause some form of restart.
Yeah, I can confirm I saw a bit of tough fighting between both Mercedes drivers as Milan has damage on his wing. On his right end plate is missing.
Oh, that's not gone well for Mercedes then. They start from the front row together, and both of them lost out to Charles Leclerc off the line, which is huge given that championship battle. And Milan and the second Mercedes of Cosman, they're both going to come into the pit. So we'll wait and see what their strategy is with regards to tires. Are they going to put on a set of hards and try to get to the end? But they'll definitely be looking at mending some of that wing damage. And they've both come in together. It means Milan is going to get held up. He's got to double stack behind Cosman. And Cosman's changing his wing. So Milan is going to plummet down the field here. A bunch of the guys come in to change, presumably onto some harder compounded tires. Ionides onto the hard compound. Cosman onto the mediums. But it's not worked well for Milan. He came in behind his teammate, didn't have much of a choice. He's changed his wing, he's out again, but he's out in P15 currently, which is a long way down from the P5 in which he was circulating. Behind the safety car, of course, the drivers are in control of what they are doing. And now they have a similar situation to what they were doing on that formation lap period. They're all trying to keep what little temperature they had in their tires up, whilst making sure all the other parts of the car stay down and don't overheat. It is a nice period for tire wear because, of course, at the moment, they're not putting any sort of wear or energy into these tires. So it will give them an extra couple of laps come the end of the stint. But for Furion, he made the getaway. He got into turn 1 despite the pressure from Lair behind him. And now he's got to do it all over again. And do you think he'll be feeling that pressure as he just circulates behind that Mercedes?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be... Yeah, it's really tough for him to be back there, I think. And but yeah, he's gonna give it everything because it's the last race, and yeah, nothing else he can do really about it.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of the team's championship, Mercedes were looking really good despite having lost a place each off of the line. They're sitting just few points, just 12 points off the back of Ferrari in the constructors. And with Bear Wilsman down in 10th, this is definitely doable for Mercedes still.
Yeah.
The other guys who benefit from all this are the two Toro Rossos. They've managed to leapfrog a bunch of cars and are up into P8 and P9 as Lord P the Viper picks up 5-second penalty for a collision with David. That's not ideal for Viper there. I think he ended up in the wall as well, which potentially some sort of brake checking or desync issue, because that sort of incident is very unusual.
Yeah, it looks like that's that he has to pit again.
Yeah, now there's no sign of the safety car coming in this lap so far. However, the debris will have been cleared.
Whiskey got damage also from Titan.
It's all going wrong at the back of the field, isn't it? We've seen Titan Taylor involved in these incidents before. Now Whiskey picks up a little bit of damage, and the safety car will be in this lap. They've not given Furion much warning, but I doubt he will need it. He'll back the pack up as much as he can, and it'll be interesting to see at which point he decides to floor the throttle. It's completely up to him when he goes. The cars can overtake, of course, once they are foot to the floor. I doubt you'll be driving these cars with a foot in your hands. And he's going to go as they round turn 14. He gets a reasonable jump on Lair. He's got about 5 tenths as they come across the line to get this race restarted. Lap 4 of 36, and we are racing again in Brazil. It's a good restart from Furion. Lair gets around the corner cleanly. There's a little bit of a challenge further back, and that's one of the alphas has gone around. DJ Mario was challenging his teammate Bogdan for P6, and he spun it, and what looked like a great weekend for Alfa Romeo has suddenly gone drastically downhill as DJ Mario plummets down the order. Davey Lee TV, however, he'll be quite grateful for that one because that's one less car trying to get past him, and he can now focus on his championship rival, Danny Lanfear. The two Toro Rossos also benefit from that. Started way down the field after putting in a ton of laps on the hard compound in qualifying. They're now up to P7 and P8 already. They'll be loving this. They are the first medium runners on track right now. The guy behind them is Cosman, also on the mediums. He's pitted to put those on and will likely have to pit again. So they're just looking to stay close to the back of these soft runners. So as come the second half of the pit, they're right on the gearbox.
So yeah, also by the way, I made a mistake. It wasn't David who got damage, it was Titan Taylor who got damage on his wing before the restart.
Yes, so we will keep an eye on that. Titan Taylor still circulating at the moment. He's in a battle with the cars around him as Furion comes across the line. Of course, he sets the fastest lap of the race so far, but he's not managed to break that DRS zone. DRS not yet enabled. It should be by the time they come around next time. But Lair is right there. He's keeping that gap at around half a second. It's not increased since the restart. And that's exactly what he needs to do if he wants a chance at breaking Furion's unbeaten record. That unmarked report card, if you will. Charles Leclerc, however, he's not managing quite so well. He's dropping a little bit off the back of these leaders. It's oscillating around about 9/10 of a second at the moment, and he'll need to make sure that he doesn't lose any more time through this middle sector. And at the moment, he's doing a good job of it. He's maintained it at about 8/10. There's no massively close battles throughout the field at the moment, so we'll keep our eye on the leaders as they circulate round to complete yet another lap, and Furion gets a brilliant exit out of the final corner, and that means that he might just break the toe of that Haas a little bit. He'll still gain a little bit in top speed, but not quite so much. Braking down into turn one. That's where the Haas looks so strong. You can see Lair is visibly confident on the brakes through there. But then he loses a little bit potentially through the second part of the Senna S. Furion pulls across to the inside of the track, attempts to break the DRS, attempt to break the slipstream, but that Haas closing all the time down the straights.
Oh, we got a McLaren around Bombard. He spun in the Senna S's.
Bombard, he's gone round, like you mentioned, Senna S. That's not too important in terms of championship, of course, McLaren having already wrapped up both, but Bombard would have been hoping for a better round out to the season than that. Fortunately for him, he's not under any threat from behind because that is where Viber is. Viber's some 20-30 seconds about off the back of that pack. But it's the front three who are getting ever closer together. They've dropped Danny Lanfear in the Williams. He's about 2 seconds off of this battle. But the front three are now separated by about a second in total. Who's going to get the best exit? It'll be Charles, who has the double slipstream as they round turn number 12, round 13. Here is 14. Furion looks relatively safe. They're closing on him all the time, but I don't think they're quite going to be close enough to have a move. They're not. Furion's confident on the brakes, almost braking later in terms of time than the Haas that time around. But he's going to be under pressure, surely, as they come round the Curva du Sol onto the straight between 3 and 4. Bogdan's picked up a penalty, so Alfa Romeo's day goes from bad to worse. But Furion, again, really good on the exit. Capitalizes getting out of the corner as well. And as such, the Haas and the Ferrari, they can't quite get close enough to challenge that McLaren.
Yeah, also, Bogdan has made an overtake on Davy Lee TV, which is gonna compromise Davy in the fight for second, of course.
Yeah, Davy's he's thereabouts. He's currently 4th, as we mentioned, but Bogdan himself not looking too bad. Bogdan's currently P9. So with a good result, it could be Bogdan who finishes P2 in this championship.
Bogdan is P9?
In the championship.
Oh yeah, sorry, yep.
No need to worry.
Oh, Lair, what?
Lair's gone round.
Oh, no.
Lair makes a mistake. Lair has lost it coming out of turn 12. We mentioned how crucial that exit is, and it's him who makes the error that time. Gets on the power a little bit too early. He'll instantly challenge Davy Lee TV around the outside. Lair was right up there. We know he's got the pace of Furion, but he's simply not quite around Davy Lee TV at the Senna S. He'll have the DRS again down the back straight. He's already alongside the Renault Sport Car on the run down to turn 4. He's got the inside. He had the DRS. That should be job done. And now he's got to close up onto the back of Bogdan. Then Daniel Lanfear. There's so much time to try and find as he got it wrong in that final sector. This gives Furion a little bit of breathing room because Charles was also involved in that.
Yep. There was a contact between Davy and Lair there.
Yeah, and the safety car is going to come out as well.
Yeah, I think it was because of the Haas here. At the back, yep, he's missing his front wing. I think.
Yeah. I believe he's potentially oversteered into the wall coming out of the Senna S. There is the only way I can think of that happening. So, second safety car period, and Charles will breathe a sigh of relief to see that yellow board come up at the top of his screen. He was losing time to Furion, and Furion is going to take the opportunity to pit. So is Charles. Where's Danny Lanfear? Will he dive in this time around? He does. Danny Lanfear's in the pit. Bogdan's in the pit. Lair comes into the pit. Cosmin carries on. So he made that early pit stop, and he's going to have to try and go deep and potentially put on a set of softs near the end of this one. Bloth and Handy, also in the medium tire, they're going to carry on. So your top three is a completely changed lineup. But Furion is the guy who looks pretty set after this. He's now got that pit stop out of the way. He's not under threat from those medium runners. And now he's exclusively fighting the car of Charles behind him.
Oh yeah, Charles, he took on the soft tire. He was, yeah. What? Yeah, someone took on the intermediate tire? What?
That looks like a misclick. Ionides has put on a set of the intermediate rain tire. There, you got a few different decisions. For example, David's put on a set of the hards near the back, but none quite as unusual as putting on a set of inters in the wet. It seems pretty blue-skied and happy here in Brazil, and it doesn't look like we're going to get a tropical rain shower anytime soon, but you never know. Maybe it will be a spark of genius from Williams. They need a little bit of that in real life, and maybe that's what Ionides is trying to infuse in them.
Yeah.
Tire strategy-wise, as you mentioned, Charles has changed onto a set of the softs, which would imply a two-stop for the Ferrari. And that's going to be tricky to pull off. He's... With all the medium runners in front and Furion as well, you'd expect him to struggle to utilize the true speed of that soft tire since he's got so much traffic. And you really do need clear air to make an ambitious strategy like pit stopping twice work.
Yeah, and also a thing to mention is, of course, all the medium runners. This is gonna affect their race, as all the soft runners are getting like basically a free pit stop. So Cosmin and all the boys are gonna have to drive a really good race now.
Yes, Cosmin's hope here. Of course, we know he's got the pace of the leaders. He was in that battle during the opening couple of laps. But as far as he's concerned, he's got a hope that he has the pace over the two Toro Rossos, and that those Toro Rossos hold up everything behind him. They need them to just back the pack up and allow Cosmin to make 18 to 19 seconds so you can get in and out of the pits and not lose those places. It's going to be tricky, but we have seen crazier things happen even at this circuit and even in this league, so don't count Cosmin out of it quite yet. He's got everything to fight for because he's only 5 points off of Danny Lanfear. So he, you got to remember, is still competing for the championship in second place. And all of these championship points, all of these standings really do matter because, of course, some of these guys will be looking for promotion up into Tier 3, potentially even Tier 2 for next season in the F1 2020 times.
So yeah, also I'm looking down the standings now and I can see like a lot of people are actually in this battle for P2, so really, really interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and to put it in perspective how close this is, it's not like one guy has a massive lead. So you got Fury, and obviously he's won the championship, he's got 100 points. You've then got Itax on 44. 4 points further back from that is Danny Lanfear. Then you got a 1 point gap to Davey Lee TV, 4 to Alex Purita, none from then to Cosmin, 1 to Charles, 1 to Jedla. Jedla is tied with Bogdan on points. You then get a 9 point gap to Lord P the Viber, who is tied with John. Handy is running around 12th. He's 2 points further back. On 18.
Oh no, we have a crash,
As it all goes wrong under safety car in the pit exit. That's Bogdan and Danny Lanfear. Danny Lanfear, he was circulating up near the top of the field. He had his pit stop out of the way. It was all looking good for his second place efforts. And now he's plummeted down the order. He's got huge amounts of wing damage on that right-hand side. And he'll have to pit with the safety car having come in. It's a nightmare.
But also, yeah, few things to mention here from the safety car start is that Cosmin, he has already made the gap down to the Toro Rossos, and Charles Leclerc has overtaken Furion here.
And that's exactly what Charles needs to do. We'll keep an eye on Charles's progress as he comes round to start lap 12. This is the 1/3 point of this race. So we still got a long way to go, and it's just behind them that the real action is. Just behind them, that's Lair trying to make up ground back to where he should be. He gets down the inside of Whiskey, and now he's behind Furion again. This has played out rather fortunately for Lair because he made that mistake, but by virtue of the safety car, he's on the same set of tires as Furion, exact same age, and he's only 2/10 off the back of him.
Davey spun.
Oh. Davey TV, it's not gone well for him. No. He had a chance with him now not scoring points down in 15th, and Charles and Cosmin lapping at the front of the pack. It's looking difficult for the Renault driver to really progress.
And he was, of course, P4 in the championship. Only 1 point behind Danny. So also a contender for the second place.
So. Yeah, it's a little bit of a nightmare there for Davey. He was certainly in that fight, but it's not gone well. Charles is already on the back of Handicap, however. Handy's tires, they're mediums, and they're not even fresh. As Charles sits the fastest lap of the race, he almost has a look into turn number 1. He's not going to be close enough as then they curve down the Senna S. He'll have the DRS again, and he really does need to clear this Toro Rosso, because at the moment, Furion is just about holding it within a second of Charles, so he needs to get away, and he needs to put up that gap. Like we mentioned, he's looking for 18, 19 seconds, something in that range, or at least the ability to come out, put on a set of mediums, and close in the remainder of that gap again. Charles gets the move done on Handy through turn number 4, and now he sets his sights on Bloth. We'll ride on board with Charles through this middle sector. He curves it in through that long left-hander. A little kick and roll understeer potentially, and he's got 1.4 seconds to close. If you feel like if he can get that down to under a second, it should be rather elementary for him to make that overtake. But at the moment, it's not quite there. As we come round, some lots of power on really quickly. I thought for sure he was going to have the rear end come and say hello to the front there, but he just seems really settled in that Ferrari at the moment. Just behind these guys, Furion is looking to make progress on Handicap. He has the DRS, he has the slipstream, but he's not going to be close enough into turn number 1. So everybody's fighting their own little battles, and the pressure really is on Furion because he's got Lair behind him. Lair was already trying to make the overtake before that safety car period. And if Furion gets held up behind the Toro Rosso, then Lair might have that opportunity.
Last spun. Oh no. Oh, what a save from him.
That was a very impressive save. He just about got away with it. I believe Bomba did spin on the
safety car,
lane, and he did, and it gives us another safety car. That was Bomba getting it wrong for the second time in this race, potentially frustrated after the first incident, oversteering out of this NS and straight into the wall.
Drive-through penalty for Cosmin. Oh no. Oh. But yeah, drive-through penalty for Cosmin for speeding under the safety car. But I was about to mention that he of course would have the chance for the win now, that he would. Yeah, I mean, oh wait, yeah, no, I don't think he could the soft go. No, I don't know.
The softs would struggle, but he could put on a set of mediums, because he did start the race on a soft compound and just very quickly changed onto the mediums.
Of course.
So he did have the option there to come in for the softs. He's going to come in under the pits. I don't believe you can serve a drive-through penalty under the safety car. You cannot. So he comes in, puts a set of soft tires on, and then as soon as the safety car is in, he'll be serving his drive-through penalty and trying to scythe his way back through the field. All this puts Bloth into the lead of the race, something we haven't seen all season, and Handicap sitting in P3. Handicap, he picked up that second position for Toro Rosso, and he's no stranger to suddenly having a bit of pace on a set of old tires. He's one of the guys who can really wring the neck of a car when required. So Charles might not be disposed of the Toro Rosso man quite yet. It's going to be interesting to see how Bloth handles this restart too, because as we mentioned, we haven't seen this before from him. And all of the guys have generally been accelerating around about turn 14. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries something different.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be good to see here. We have a lot of different strategies now down the field. We have someone on hards and people on soft and mediums. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an
David.
interesting discussion. Like you mentioned, Whiskey came in, put on a set of the hard tires. That is an odd one because the hards, the mediums would also make it to the end, and there's a chance you could stretch a set of softs to the end from here with the fuel load reducing all the time. So putting on a set of the hards, he's either not confident in his tire management ability, or he just wants to be able to push with everything he's got for the rest of this race.
But yeah, also just a thing I just saw was David. He hit the wall in turn 5 here under the safety car. So he's out of the race, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that won't shorten the safety car period, to say the least. Another guy in the wall.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure too many of the guys will be unhappy about an extended safety car period. For Furion, it gives him more time on where he can push on those mediums and get away from the cars around him. He's got less time for Cosmin and Lair to catch up to Furion. And for Bloth and Handy, what previously may have been a little bit of tire conservation to make sure you can really push on the softs at the end is now just going to be push as hard as you can, put on the softs. Oh, and I'll keep pushing as hard as I can as DJ Mario picks up a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits under safety car. I'm not sure how that happened, potentially avoiding another car that put on the brakes suddenly, but that is an unusual time to see a track limits warning.
Yeah, but it's because there's like this new glitch in the game. Like if you just put 4 wheels off the track, then it's track extension apparently. On the safety car, that's very weird. They really need to fix it. But yeah.
Really yeah, like we mentioned, this is the last real race as such that the guys have on F1 2019. So they'll be looking to make the most of it, and Bloth gets a chance to try out his restart ability. Safety car in this lap, it accelerates a Blay, and Bloth again, as we've seen before, slows down the pack. And he's doing a little bit of deception. We don't see this from Furion very often. Furion's very serious. Bloth has come out, and he's weaving. He's not letting them know when he wants to floor it. But he's going to go around about the same point as the other cars, as he knows he's still slow. He's still making sure that he can try and get the jump on them. And now he goes. And it has actually worked. He pulls out about half a second over Charles immediately on the restart. And he's going to see if he can get away, because Charles's tires, they'll be going off before too long. 8 laps on those softs, so albeit a few of them on the safety car. The rest of the guys in the pack, they file through relatively smoothly this time around. Couple jostles for position, but nobody doing anything too ridiculous, and nobody quite making up a place either. In the front, Bloth leads the way. He's got half a second over Charles, who's then got 1.3 seconds over Furion. Because it's Furion who makes the move on Handicap. Handicap instantly got to defend from the Mercedes of Cosmin, who goes around the outside. That set of mediums not working on Handicap's car. Handicap's still under pressure, and it's Cosmin. Cosmin sends it down the inside of Furion. He needs to make this strategy work, because you've got to remember, he'll be in for a drive-through penalty at some point. So he's instantly cutting through the field. He made Furion look as if he wasn't even there, which is not an easy thing to do. As now Charles challenges Bloth around the outside at turn number 11. Turn 12 they come through now. Can the Ferrari get the better exit? He definitely does on that softer compound. The mediums just not quite responding as well as the red tyre on that red car through turn number 15 onto that start-finish straight. Cosmin comes in for his penalty drive-through. But Toro Rosso defends the inside. Charles tries around the outside. There's going to be contact, surely. They just about get away with it there. There was barely racing room, but potentially room without enough for racing as they came through the second part of the Senate S. Bloth still on the inside into turn number 4. If he can defend it well and just open the wheel on exit, he should be able to hold it, but it doesn't matter. The grip of that soft tire enough to let Charles through on Bloth. Bloth will have a little peek around the outside into 6, into 7, but he won't be close enough. And now Charles needs to seize the initiative and get away from Bloth and hope with everything he has that Bloth can defend from Furion for just even a couple laps.
But also an interesting thing in the fight for P1 is that, yeah, we got Furion who doesn't need to pit, and then we got Bloth who's probably gonna fit on a set of soft, and then Charles Leclerc is gonna put on a set of medium. So maybe Bluff can come back at him later in the race.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how all that plays out. But it's the battle for 9th that's currently very, very exciting. Whiskey going very defensive from Furo Milan. It's not going to matter. Milan's up the inside already as they come down. But now Milan being challenged from behind by Davey Lee TV. It's going to be all next to each other. That's so deep from Whiskey. Whiskey goes way, way too deep. He was coming across the screen looking as if he was walking like a crab as he entered turn number 1. The battle still goes on, however. Furo Milan and Davey Lee TV battling it out, and there's almost contact. Surely that's more moves. Up ahead, there was contact as well. There's further contact in the battle for 9th position. Lord P the Viper also manages to gain a position up ahead. He's the leading Renault. He got past Bears Wilsman, and now Bear Wilsman is dropping back into Davey TV and Furo Milan because he picked up some wing damage in his scuffle and his kerfuffle with the first of the Renaults. Now he's got the second one to deal with. Can he keep Davey Lee TV behind? Because this could be really, really important for Davey Lee. Davey Lee TV gets such a good exit out of turn number 10. That's an unusual place to see a move, but he gets it done around the outside of turn 11, and now Furo Milan needs to get this pass done. He needs to get it over and dusted before too long, as we've got a virtual safety car. That's one of the Red Bulls. I believe that's Vlad Red, the second Red Bull. No, that's Whiskey. Whiskey has gone off. He got it wrong. Coming through the entry into turn 10. There's no way that occurred without some degree of contact, potentially suffering from the damage that we saw him sustain in turn 1. And that's not good. Whiskey out the race. Vlad Red, P16. We mentioned that Aston were probably out of this championship, but they're not even going to make it up into the top 5 where their guys just nowhere near the points. We're racing once more. DRS is enabled. Cosman, I believe, has served his penalty, and now he's already scything through the field. He gets past the racing point. He makes contact with Ionides. Ionides won't be happy about that. The game doesn't give a penalty. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a steward's inquiry into that after the race. Whiskey leaves the session, and rightly so. I'd be frustrated too. And now Cosman has 8.4 seconds to close on to Danny Lanfear. But he'll have the incentive to do it because Danny Lanfear is the guy he is competing against in that championship. The battle at the front is also closing up. Like we mentioned, Charles gapping Bloff at this stage in the race, even if it may not be to the end of the race. And as such, Furion is getting ever closer. He looks to the inside of the Toro Rosso, not quite close enough as they descend through the Senna S. And Bloff's been very, very good at defending that initial overtaking spot. Furion's got to be careful because he does have that Alfa Romeo of Bogdan right on his tail. So if he gets it wrong, if he goes too deep on the brakes, that Alfa Romeo car will be right on his tail and potentially even alongside him as they curve through turn number 4. It's Bogdan who makes a small mistake. He got a kick of oversteer. Descending into turn number 6. Round again through 7. And nobody's quite close enough, so they'll file in, you would expect, and wait until next time round to make the move. But this could really be jeopardizing Furion. Because every lap he stays behind, he's losing almost half a second to Charles.
But yeah, of course Furion doesn't need to pit, I believe. So
no, Furion is going to try and get this tire to the end, and we've seen him in previous races do, put simply, miracles in terms of tire wear. He's pitted very early and gotten a set of mediums to the end, regardless of how much time he has left to race. But now he's the one who's defensive. Bloff has gotten away a little bit out of the final corner. Furion has to defend from Bogdan, who's going to try it all the way around the outside of the CNS. That was marvellous on the brakes, but he'll come under threat on exit, and Furion says, thank you very much, I'll take that back. You're not going to get rid of me that easily. Bogdan thought it was Christmas time there. He got around the outside, but Furion, he's a wily old fox, and he wasn't going to be outsmarted that easily. Bloff, meanwhile, he's counting his sheep. He's very happy with all this. It's just giving him a little bit of breathing space. As Lair, we know he's got the pace despite a couple incidents. He sets the fastest lap of the race on lap 22 of 36.
Yeah, what a battle here for P3. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I've never seen such an exciting race, like in terms of battling. So yeah, I hope all the viewers are enjoying it as well.
Yeah, this tier continues to tier up the goods on those stands. We can pick and choose at our will consistently bringing battles over the field, but we're going to keep our eye on this battle for P2 still, because it's Bogdan. Gets a fantastic slingshot out of turn number 12. He runs it up. This time Furion will cover the inside once more. Bogdan again stronger on the brakes than the McLaren. He'll be around the outside. Can Furion pull the same trick as he did last time? He gets a better exit once more out of turn 2. This is turn 3, the Curva du Sol. He'll be on the outside of the Alfa Romeo. He's not quite going to have the opportunity to get by as Bogdan, because Furion gets in front, pulls across, and it's a repeat of what happened last time, but Bog was just that little bit closer on his second attempt. Will it be third time lucky for Alfa Romeo, or can he pull something into turn number 8? He closes through 7 and 8. These guys are on equal tires, you got to remember. So this is a race for position, and we've never seen this degree of fight from Bogdan. He's clearly got something on this medium compound that we've just not seen from him before. They've closed in Bloth in this middle sector as well, so don't think Furion won't have the slipstream, because he most certainly will. We are already at turn 12 and ready to jump on the merry-go-round once more. It's a good exit from Bog, but this time Furion also matches him. He's in the slipstream of Bloth. Potentially will it be Bloth who comes under threat. Furion covers the inside. He'll pull across, try and break the slipstream. Bloth pits, which is going to be huge, because now Furion doesn't have the slipstream. He won't have the DRS in the next power track either, but it might not matter, because Bog gets it done. This time he has the inside, and now he's in front. Furion instantly 0.4 of a second back. He didn't hook it up as well as he wanted to through the Senna S, but he closes down to turn 4. Is he brave enough? Not quite. We know he's good on the brakes, but he wasn't willing to have a go at Bogdan there. He's got a third of this race left to run, so he might think he can yet pass the Alfa Romeo. With Bloth in, he will come back out of the pits in P9. So he's still in a point scoring position. He could pick up some solid points for Toro Rosso. And Charles, you got to remember, he's still got to pit. Yeah. He's only got 4 seconds over Bogdan. He's, put simply, not far enough ahead. There is no other way of putting this. He will not win this race unless he can pull out some sort of a miracle over the next couple laps.
Yeah, and also it's of course not gonna be the soft he's gonna go on. He's gonna have to go on the mediums. So yeah, not gonna be easy for him to do.
Yeah, no, this could get really interesting very, very quickly in terms of championship, as we see Handy come into the pits from P4, I believe that was.
Yep.
Like we mentioned, Charles currently leading the race. He's got to pit and come back out further down the line. That is going to bring him out around about P6. I believe he'll just about make it out in front of Cosmin, but if he loses any time to Cosmin, who you've got to remember is currently circulating on fresher soft tyres than Charles, then Cosmin comes out in front of him. Charles is 1 point behind the Mercedes driver, that's Cosmin, in the championship. 1 point. Whoever finishes ahead of these two, if they finish this far up the order, will come out on top in the championship. That's how important all of this is. Davey Lee TV, he's not scoring any points at the moment, so they could both leapfrog Davey Lee TV. And Danny Lanfear, he's also not scoring any points as it stands. So this could yet be Charles's P2 in the championship if he can string a good one together.
Also has Charles pit now for mediums, it looked like.
Yeah, Charles does come into the pits. He puts on a fresh set of mediums. That releases Bogdan and Furion to be at the front of this race. Furion's holding on to the coattails of Bogdan. It might be with the help of the DRS, it might not. But he won't be fussed. He's going to be close enough to try and move at some point. Charles has made it out in P5 at the moment. He comes round the inside of the Curva du Sol. That's turn number 3. And that's the battling cars behind him, Lair and Cosmin. Wow. He's battling with them in the championship, and he comes out around about half a second in front, which is crucial, because now he's in front of Cosmin. He's stealing away P2 in that championship as it stands.
Yeah, a really well-timed pit stop from him to just get out ahead of that battle. So, and now he's just gonna have to settle down and make the gap to them.
Yeah, he's got a little bit to find to the cars in front. He's looking at about 5.5, 6 seconds up to Lord P the Viber. But Lord P, he's on 11 lap old mediums, as is Milan in front of him. And then obviously you're looking at the leaders who are on 8 lap old mediums. Charles is on 0 lap old mediums. They are brand new, out the box, ready to run. So if he can put together quali laps, the tires will hold on to the end of this race. Worryingly, for Furion at the top of the field, he's had the DRS for around about a lap and a half, 2 laps since we last spoke about him, and he's dropped 2 tenths to Bogdan. Bogdan, he's not much quicker than Furion, as I believe that might have been Charles' under threat from Lair. We expected Charles to come out of the pits and instantly start closing the gap. It's not. It's Lair in P6, that Haas driver. He started from the front row. He's lost some places through strategy and incidents, but he's clearly got the pace, and he was almost past Charles there on the inside of turn number 4. This battle with Charles is very much not over, despite him seeming to have that tire advantage. Charles curves through turn number 11, and Lair, you've got to feel, has to do this sooner rather than later. He's around about 6 tenths, 7 tenths off the back as they enter this 1.3 kilometer flat out section. DRS will pop open. He's got the slipstream, and it comes down to around about 4 tenths of a second. And Lair on that lap actually sets the fastest lap of the fastest final sector of the race. Wow. You can see that by the fact that Cosmin is just dropped a long way off the back of this duel. Lair will have the DRS once more, closing. Will he take a look to the inside? Not quite. He wasn't willing to try ascend on the brakes because he is still competing with Cosmin, remember, even if he's currently got him beat. A silly mistake, and he could easily lose a couple places. So he files in behind, and Charles will now try and use this time to gap the Haas driver. Throughout all of this dueling, normally we see dueling slow cars down, Charles has reeled in Lord P the Viper by about 1.3 seconds. So they are going to get there at this stage in the race. And Lord P could be about to enter a duel with Furion Milan. So if those two start fighting, then they'll plummet back towards the following pack. Lord P the Viper, he'll pull to the outside of the Mercedes. Mercedes being very, very clever. He'll take the easy line to defend, but it doesn't matter because Viper got such good exit. It's done before they're even on the brakes. Mercedes now needs to get a good run through these first 3 corners of the lap. The DRS checkpoint is in the middle of turns 1 and 2. It's in the center of that Senna S, so he will have it as they come down towards turn 4. Lord P the Viper, though, he's a smart guy. You won't his guard all too often, and he breaks the slipstream, discourages a move to the inside if returning to the inside, the racing line. And that's enough for him to take the place of Furion Milan, potentially begin to feel the pressure from behind because Charles and Lair, they are coming. The gap at the front has also come down just a touch. You've got Bogdan and Furion leading the way. It was up as high as 9 tenths of a second at one point. It's now down to just half a second. Now it's 4 tenths. It'll be 3 tenths, presumably, by the end of the straight. He won't be close enough to try and move, but now he looks as if he's beginning to come back into this race. He was almost conserving his tires earlier on, just making sure that he had them come the end of the race, that a different strategy from the likes of Charles or potentially Cosmin and Lair didn't catch him out. As Lair now, I was just talking about the battle front. Lair making a move because Charles has got it wrong into turn 1. I believe there was a little bit of contact there between Lair and Charles. We'll definitely see what the stewards say about that one after the race and if there's an angry Ferrari driver. But it's Cosmin who benefits from all of this. He goes around the outside of the Haas at turn number 4. That's a fantastic move from the Silver Arrow. Has Lair got anything to do about it? He doesn't at the moment. He's got no response. And Cosmin, with one of the most brilliant pieces of opportunity I think we've ever seen, at least in this tier. He then gets sideways before he enters turn 9 at the bottom of the hill. He's kept it all together somehow, though, as he comes round. But Lair, he'll be right there come the straight. He needs to keep an eye on that Mercedes. He can't allow it to get away, because the moment it does, that's when you begin to struggle. When you then are still in the dirty air in that region of about 1 second to 1.3, but you don't have the benefit of the DRS. All you're doing is destroying your tires, your engine, your ERS deployment to try and break that DRS window. But at the moment, he's staying close enough. He's 3/10 away, and that Haas black and gold fills the mirrors of the Mercedes as they descend the Senna S. He might be close enough to try and move come the end of this straight. He's definitely going to get a good view at the back of that diffuser. He could draw a sketch of it from memory as he reaches the end of that straight. You can see every single detail on that Mercedes, but not quite the side pods. He's not close enough to try and move, and he'll file in behind. There's 6, there's 7. You can, in theory, try it at 8, of course, where we've seen plenty of incidents in even recent times, but he's not going to have a go there. And you feel like his next opportunity is going to be up that straight once more. So he'll settle in, save his engine mode, save his electronic energy deployment, and prepare for yet another assault, because he's given himself this work to do here.
Oh, it looks like Cosman went a bit wide out of the last corner.
Yeah, and that'll compromise him. You can see already how much closer Leia is this time around. He's going to look for the inside. Mercedes just about manages to stop this one, but once again, Leia gets a very good exit, and as you mentioned, Cosman makes a mistake. Leia has the move done before they even get to the NS. He goes a little bit deep at turn 1 potentially, but he gets it all lined up and set up for a good run through the bottom of the hill. The Mercedes will close with the DRS, but I doubt it is going to be close enough to try and move. He gets so close in the braking zone.
Yeah.
He broke almost 50 meters later than the Haas. That was ridiculous. But it wasn't quite enough to have a move. If anything, he just put himself in danger of breaking an end plate, breaking a front wing. Of course, all these cars are equalized in
Danny
this
is out of the race. Oh, no.
Danny's out of the race. That's huge.
What happened? Oh, he crashed out of turn 3. Out of the Senna S's, I don't know.
It's so easy to get it wrong there. Danny was running around on 9-lap old soft, so he would have been beginning to feel the wear on those tires, and potentially what has cost him, and what could cost him big time. He's now not scoring any points. Davey Lee TV is scoring 1 point, which would allow him to beat Danny Lanfear in the championship on tiebreakers, because Davey Lee has scored a 3rd, and Danny Lanfear's best result is a 4th. That is what it would come down to between those two. They've also got to keep their eye on Cosman behind. Cosman is 5 points off the back of Davey Lee TV in the championship. So as such, Cosman would pinch them both, and Charles is only 1 point further back from that. So keep an eye out for that charging Ferrari in the second part of this race, or the remainder of these few laps. I don't think he's going to do it, but Cosman is definitely pushing. Charles, he's in a battle with handicap.
Wow.
It's not quite on. Is he going to have a look down the inside? We've seen it go wrong here before. Handy gives him plenty of room. He knows full well how important this is for the Ferrari. He pulls across on the exit. He's still in front. Ferrari closes so much on the brakes. Handicap just struggling everywhere compared to the Ferrari. Can Charles once again get up alongside? He's not going to be close enough into turn 12. He looks like he's got better control of the car, though, better ability to put the power from the engine through the axle into the wheels and then onto the track, crucially. Gets a good exit out of turn 12. The Ferrari pulls up alongside that now iconic blue of Toro Rosso. Move done before the straight's even over as Cosman picks up a 3-second time penalty. That could
just
be
looked like a spun round.
Charles goes round. There was contact with Andy a little bit through the second part of the Senna S. I was just about to talk about how Charles was right in there. He was within the gap required to get to Cosman potentially with that penalty. And then he spins it. He loses control. And now it's Cosman who's looking like he could take the lead, or not the lead of that group in the championship.
Yeah, but also a thing to mention is that the handicap, he actually made a move on Charles around the outside of turn 6 and 7. That was a great move, so luckily I caught it on the stream. Yeah,
it was a very, very impressive bit of driving from handicap. We've seen flashes of genius from him, and I hope we'll see more than just flashes in the Pan come next season, because he's definitely got a lot to give. Now,
Bluff on Cosman now, maybe?
Bluff's closed up. He's got much fresher tires. He'll have a look to the outside as they come into turn 1. Cosman goes very deep. Bluff doesn't need to make this overtake because Cosman has 3 seconds penalty, but he gets it done. And Bluff, can he get up onto the back of Leia? He's got 2 laps and he's just taken some points away from Cosmin, which could be absolutely crucial come those championship standings. That puts Cosmin into P7, which is worth 6 points. If Cosmin wants P3 in the championship, he needs 9. He is not doing enough to take P2 in the championship. He's got enough for P3, sorry, but he's not doing enough for P2 at the moment. ITAX would just about hold that based off his opening race performance. At the front, though, it's Bogdan. We've not talked much about that battle at the front. Bogdan has managed to just about hold off Furion. He comes across the line, start the final lap of the race. It's been sitting at 0.8 of a second this whole time. Furion instantly has it down to 6 as they come down the Senna S. He'll then close more down the back straight, but he'll have to do far, far more if he wants the position. Further back, though, Lair, it's the move done on Lord P, the Viber. That's very, very handy for Lair. That he'll be feeling the benefits of that one come the championship. Currently, he's only got 2 points, and he'll do well to pick up another big whack here. At the front, though, the leaders, they're coming through Sector 2. Furion, he's not close enough to try a move as it stands. He's got it down by a couple tenths this lap, but currently, he is not close enough to get it done. Can he close any more? He's again closing, just touch by touch, but it's already turn 11. He's only got one more real corner. Bogdan looks like he might hold on.
Yep.
Bogdan exits turn number 12, rounds the corner. No one's been able to get anywhere near Furion, but at the final race of the season, it's going to be Bogdan who puts an end to that streak. He pits up a win for Alfa Romeo.
No, Furion, he wins it because of penalties.
Season, but it's Furion who takes it. Furion drove a sensible race the whole time. Bogdan drops back by 7 seconds come the penalties. He does well to hold on from Lair, who crosses line P3. Then you got a flurry of drivers finishing. Milan in 4th, Bloff 5th, Cosmin 6th, Handicap 7 off of the penalties. So that's a good result for Toro Rosso. Yeah. Cosmin in 6th. That gives him 8 points. Cosmin needed 9 to take P2 in the championship, so he misses out. He picks up 3rd position by 1 point. But Furion, he didn't cross the line in the lead, but he has a 100% winning record in Tier 4. If that's not a quest, a demand for promotion, I don't know what is. I hope we get to see him competing against the very best Delta Motor Racing has to offer later on. Further down the order, of course, we got Handicap. He picked up an additional place. Davey Lee TV, he scraped in 1 point, which unfortunately doesn't look like it will be enough to better Cosmin. However, with Danny Lanfear not finishing, it does put Davey Lee TV ahead of Danny. So he'll salvage his current 4th position by leapfrogging the Williams after a disaster of a race for the favourite Danny Lanfear.
Wait, I think Bogdan, is he gonna pick up 2nd? With his 2nd place now? I think he is. Because he's on 33 points. And with 18 points, that's... Oh wait, no. Yeah?
Yes, Bogdan should pick up P2 in the championship.
Wow.
That is huge from Bogdan. So Bogdan, obviously these are provisional championship standings. We've got tons of maths, stewards and cars and all that, but your championship at the end of Tier 4 looks to be Furion in P1, Bogdan P2, ITAX P3, then we believe it'll be Cosmin P4, Davey Lee P5, Danny Lanfear P6, and then I do not have the maths ready for you at that speed for the rest of the top 10. We're going to see if we can catch an interview with Furion, but before all that, Popo, who's going to take your driver of the day as such? Who do you think put in the best one?
That's a really hard one. I mean, such a crazy race and so many things to watch out for. Of course, I mean, I would probably give it to Furion if he had managed to make the move on Bogdan. But, yeah, really a tough one. I mean, also the Toro Rossos had a good race, and I also feel like Cosmin did well, but only getting P6, of course.
Yeah, it was a good recovery drive from Cosmin. Of course, having a drive-through penalty to then come back through the field and pick up P6. It's a shame that they missed up on some crucial championship positions, but a very good drive nonetheless. So we do have an interview lined up with the magnificent Furion. Furion, you are confirmed the champion of Tier 4. How does it feel?
It feels pretty good. I admit. It feels good. I don't even know what to say about it. It's nice.
You managed to pick up 5 race wins out of 5 entries. Is there a secret to your dominance? Are you doing anything that the other guys aren't?
I don't think so. I think I practice a lot before the race just to be certain. And most of the race, I just keep it clean and I get no penalties. I try to avoid contact. And most of the time it works out. So yeah, maybe, yeah.
Speaking of penalties, of course, you didn't cross the line first today.
No,
Were you aware of those penalties for the driver ahead of you?
Well, Jeff is a bit of a fucker because he was saying that he had 3 seconds penalty, but apparently he had 13. So yeah, I knew he had a penalty. I knew I had to follow him, but I had a slightly yellow vein because someone made a little bit contact with me. So I had a hard time keeping up with him, but yeah, eventually I was in the 3-second gap. So good enough.
Yeah, your race engineer not doing anything to help you out there.
I did another one.
You've raced as we mentioned, in 5 races. What's been your favorite moment throughout the course of this championship? Was it picking up the confirmed victory last time, or is it a particular overtake?
To be honest, I was fighting with Bogdan in Brazil, and I did 2 switchbacks on him that I'm really proud of. I don't know if you see it on stream, but I was really proud of those 2 switchbacks. So those were my moments of the season.
We did catch it. They were very impressive.
Yeah. It was the best one is he got me like the first one, and I did a switchback the first time, and the next lap I did the same thing, and I was so happy about it.
Yeah, it was fantastic driving, and of course you are the champion. Do you have anything to say to your adoring fans in stream chat?
Well, I guess thank you, and yeah, I'll try to get some more wins next season.
Of course, and we hope to see you in potentially some higher tiers. I'm looking forward to seeing you compete against the very best that Delta Motor Racing.
I'm hoping I can get to Tier 1, but they are still seeing if I will be in Tier 1 or Tier 2. But anyway, I'll accept their choice. I mean, they know better.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations not only on this one, but also for the drivers and the constructors championships. Don't forget.
Thank you.
Enjoy your off season. There might be some exhibition races. We'd love to see you at them. But until then, have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks for commentating, guys.
And that's all we have. That's all she wrote for Season 2 of Delta Motor Racing. As we mentioned, keep an eye out on the YouTube channel and the Twitch. You can, of course, put notifications on each of those. We could say something cheesy about punching the bell if you wanted, but of course, we are not vloggers. My name has been Tom Davis, and you might hear from me come those exhibition races. We'll have to see what happens. That's been Popo. He has been absolutely wonderful, so make sure to say thank you, because without him, this stream would not have happened.
Oh, thank you.
Tier 4, it's all done. Tier 3, still going. Twitch.tv/Delta Motor Racing. It's happening right now. Season 2, once that's happened, will be all over, and we look forward to seeing you soon for Season 3, where there'll be more racing, more brilliant switchbacks from Furion, I'm sure, and more of me tripping over my tongue. Thank you very much.